All right, let's get started. Welcome to office hours for 2750, computer crime and forensics. Thank you to the folks that have joined, and thank you to the people that watch this afterwards. I appreciate it very much. It makes communication that much better. So before I get started on my general spiel, is there anything, any burning questions that I need to address up front? I'm going to talk about our midterm. That's going to be of interest to lots of people, and our term paper. And I'll briefly talk about quizzes, access, and then touch on discussions as well. That's my intention. Is there anything, though, that anyone wants to talk about before I get to those topics? So hop in whenever you want, as always, either in the chat or by audio/video, and we'll work our way through. So there are probably, my apologies for those that have heard this about 5 times now, there's probably about 10% of people that haven't done the mandatory requirements in order to see the quizzes. So if you haven't done that, you don't know what I'm talking about, watch any of the other office hours, go to the syllabus, go to the announcements, and figure it out. Definitely do not send me an email at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night complaining that I didn't mark your submission that is 4 weeks late that came in on a Friday night at 10 p.m. Don't do that. It's not appreciated. It's shows a stunning lack of perspective as to how the world works, in my opinion. If you haven't done those requirements, please don't wait until the last second when you finally figure out again for the 5th week in a row that you don't have a quiz to write. I essentially work 9 to 5. I have stuck around till, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in some cases to mark things. I'm under no obligation to do that. So if you haven't done what is asked of you, don't ask me to extend myself on your behalf, because I won't. Anyways, moving on. I've said that's nothing new. I've said that over and over again. Let's talk about term papers. I'm just going to grab the instructions straight off of the term paper themselves. About 50% of students have chosen a topic. That is a good start. If you are in the half that has not, I really, really suggest that you do this. There are 8 topics to choose from. Find a topic that you like, that is of interest to you, hopefully. I've tried to make some of them appealing I've tried to make them all appealing to someone. And sorry, just reading private texts there, private chat there. I've tried to make them appealing. They are outside the scope of the course itself. They're to expand your knowledge and give you different perspectives, let you do some research. If you haven't chosen one, please consider doing that. The requirements are not that intense in terms of the number of words, but it's deceptive. I'm looking for a really high quality product, something that's been written and revised multiple times to get it to a nice polished state, not something that you whip together in the last couple of days before it's due and expect to get a good grade on. So that's my advice there. If you have already chosen a topic, hopefully you've had a chance to start working on it. I would suggest that at least some of your reading week be devoted to that. Get some content down, make sure that you've got some good sources to work from, digest some material about your topic. And just backing up, if you haven't chosen your topic, I would find something that's of interest, but I would also, before I chose it, make sure that there were some good references. I've been asked questions about the quality of references that are required. Ideally, it's peer-reviewed academic papers. That is not realistic that you're going to get 10 of those on any given topic. In some cases, you won't find any of them. So just choose good sources that are credible. If you're talking about Nike, don't use the Nike website and quote it or cite it saying how fantastic Nike is. That is not a credible source. Nike talking about Nike. That's just sort of a simple example of what I'm talking about. So can you use YouTube videos? Sure, absolutely. But make sure that the source is credible. So if you're talking about coronavirus and coronavirus treatments, don't give me Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's a great guy, but he's not a doctor. And if he gives all sorts of his thoughts, but he is not a credible source. So if you have a good video source, a YouTube source or whatever, go ahead and use that. I have no problem with the media that it's published on, but do look for credible sources. We're looking for an academic paper here. Go ahead, Jay, you got a question.
So for the paper at the end of my one I chose cloud forensics, but at the end it has 3 questions.
Yep.
Right. And so how am I going to answer all 3 of those in a thesis per se for the paper? Like in one kind of, because it says like cloud, how can the extracted data be used and how has it been used in criminal and civil cases?
Yep.
So I just give a kind of a general kind of thesis of like how it was, how computing was extracted kind of.
Yeah. I guess I'm a little confused by the question, but your essay has to address all the questions that,
Yeah.
So your thesis, if you're thinking of a thesis as being a single simple sentence, it doesn't have to be like that, right? So you can make it, it can cover, your thesis can cover the answer to all the questions, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to ask, because when I was writing my discussions,
let me stop you right there. Let's get to discussions when we get to discussion.
No, I'm just saying, for example, like for my paper, I'm just connecting the two. Right?
Yep.
So when I went with my academic skills advisor, because I used to meet with them every week.
Yep.
And so I would have like longer sentences, but just make them simpler. Are you looking for simple sentences, or are you looking for more like complex sentences in general? Because when I was reading the articles that people wrote for the citations, they were not simple. They were usually like pretty long sentences because they're trying to put a lot of things in like one sentence. You know what I mean?
Right. So I don't have a strong preference one way or the other, but let me qualify that. Simple sentences generally pack more punch, as opposed to you lose a lot in a compound sentence or in a run-on sentence because it's hard for people to sort it out. In most cases, those long sentences can be broken into 2 or 3 shorter sentences, and that is part of the editing process. I'm a long sentence writer in my first draft. I'm a long and flowery and descriptive and repetitive and all those kinds of things in my first draft. But when I go to my second draft, I'm carving out the stuff that's repetitive. I'm carving out all sorts of beautiful, descriptive, flowery, unnecessary things. I'm carving out the phrases that we conveniently always use that are unnecessary use of words, and I'm making my sentences shorter and stronger, for sure. So does that help? Does that sort of give you an indication?
Yeah, I guess I'd write the same way. If I have long sentences, and then when I work the skills, the advisor told me like I need to make it simple, just to the point.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be simple, right? Because sometimes we're dealing with complex concepts, right? Like cloud, to someone that doesn't know anything about cloud computing or cloud forensics, it's technical, but you can still write it in a way to make it digestible, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to clarify because I write 2 different ways. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, we all do, right? We write to suit the medium or the style. If we're writing a blog post, we can write it in first person. I saw this, I did that, that sort of thing. But when we go to a formal academic paper, we want it in third person. We want it generally in a passive structure. And with proper citation. So yeah, we all sort of I mean, if we're emailing or texting with friends, we have some sort of gibberish that we use. But yeah, definitely err on the side of making it more academic and more formal. But that doesn't mean some people will mistake that for long, complex run-on sentences. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Good question. Just responding to Miracle directly here. Yes, we can have a conversation afterwards, no problem. I do have a student, I think, that is going to be, let's get to the end of this and we can have a quick conversation, or we can set a time to have a quick conversation afterwards. So absolutely. So I think I've covered the basics of what I'm looking for in the term paper. I did just want to pull up an example here. Bear with me, and just go over the instructions, because I think that's well worth it. So if you haven't already chosen a topic, you're going to go into the tab or the menu item that says Groups (Topics). You're going to be faced with a list of 8 choices. You're going to choose one, and then everything's going to disappear. And there's going to be a moment of panic there. Sometimes I get emails in that moment of panic. Sometimes I don't. What happens once you make that choice through the Groups Topics section is then your topic is available under assignments. So also under assignments are a couple of videos that you should, one video that you should read and watch in a couple of formats, one closed caption, one not closed caption, but it'll tell you what I'm looking for, give you more and more detail, but your topic will appear there once you've chosen it. So it'll say term paper topic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 or 8. The instructions there, join this group to choose the topic. You will already done that at that point. Keep in mind it's an individual, even though you're joining a group to do it. It's nothing other than a group of students with the same topic. It's not to be done in any way but on your own. Write a formal paper of 1,200 to 1,500 words as a complete response to the topic. It should be double spaced in 12-point Arial or Times New Roman font. That's pretty standard, but I mean it. So you want full marks on your formatting. Follow on the formatting part of the rubric, follow my directions, please. From my perspective and from the marker's perspective, it's a lot easier to read double spaced, and we don't have to deal with strange fonts that may or may not be easy to read. If you ever tried to read an essay in, say, Comic Sans, you will quickly understand how annoying it is to read something like that. So we want a specific size, we want a specific choice of fonts, and we want it double spaced. The other really, really important part is I want it in Word format. I insist on it in Word format. I'm not going to accept any other format. So if you submit it in PDF or something else, it's going to be rejected. It will not be marked. I don't care if it's old Word format or new Word format, meaning .doc or .docx. That's either one is fine. I don't care if you use Google Word or whatever the Google Word equivalent is, but save it into a Word format for submission, please. The reason for that, and I think I've probably covered it before, is because my plagiarism detector works best with Word. So it combs through all your writing, and it tells me if other people in the class have used the same sentences, if other submissions previously have used the same sentences, or if anyone else, if you're taking that directly off of the internet. So that's why I insist on it. It's not just some sort of game that I'm playing. That's why I want it that way. Minimum of 10 in-text citations and a corresponding list of 10 or more references. It is essential that you cite your 10 references. You may end up citing an individual reference 2, 3, 4 times, whatever, that's fine. But you need 10 references. If you list your references at the end and you don't have citations in the body, that will be 0 for that portion. And I'll talk about the rubric in a second. Excuse me, I think it's 15% for citations and references. You will also take a hit on your content mark if you don't properly cite. There's no credibility to academic writing if you can't give me cited references, okay? So if you write something, back it up with a citation and list that citation in your list of references, okay? APA formats required. What I mean by that very specifically is that I want your reference list and your citations to be in APA format. You also need a title page and, like I said, the reference list and the main body, which is what you're writing. The title page, use APA as a guideline. I'm not going to deduct marks if your title page doesn't conform exactly to APA formatting. I don't really care. I just want a title page that tells me the title of your work, who you are, your student number, my name, the course number, that kind of stuff, okay? But APA formatting, you'll recall that in our course requirements quiz, there were 2 questions, one about referencing and one about citing. That's the sort of hint that that's the way I want things to be. We're already doing discussion posts, and you should be getting good at using APA format at this point. Late submissions are penalized at 10% per day. Late is 1 second late. I don't delineate artificial lines, 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, an hour late, a day late, nothing like that. It's due Friday, March 25th at 11:59. At 11:59:01, it is late, and it will be 10%, okay? I just like to be completely upfront. Whether you agree or disagree with how strict I am on that is irrelevant. I'm just giving you warning. Don't wait till 11:58 to start submitting, please. You've got all term to get this together, so don't cause yourself that level of stress. You go to submit at 11:58, you find that Blackboard's timed out, or your internet connection's a little wonky, or whatever. Don't put yourself in that position. It's one thing if you had to do something within an hour, and it's another thing when you have all term to submit it. So please don't cause yourself that level of stress. Use a formal tone, avoid first person, be concise. So that's kind of what Jay and I were talking about, the whole being concise. And I freely admit that I am not a concise first draft writer. My final product is very concise, very to the point, easy to read. And that's what I'm hoping for from you guys. Proofread before submission. Don't give me your first draft, and don't give me stuff that's riddled with spelling mistakes and grammatical mistakes. You've got all sorts of resources to fix that, even if that's just Word itself. Put into Word, check and see what the spelling is. Investigate every little line that Word puts under it, and make sure that it's acceptable. Ideally, change your language to English Canadian or Canadian English as opposed to US. But again, I don't really differentiate. I'm not so hardcore that if you spell something using American English that I'm going to give you a hard time about it. But there certainly are lots of profs, I would think, when you're in a Canadian university, that would demand Canadian English. So you might as well get in the habit of doing that. On the other hand, if you're submitting something for American publication, you're going to want it in American English, right? So don't hand in your first draft, revise. So the paper is worth 15% of your final. So it's a significant amount of your final. It's, it's something that you can do very well in, that you're not under a ton of time constraints. So I would suggest putting the effort into it. I always, and I think I've probably said this, I always look forward to reading the papers. The people that put effort into them produce some really interesting papers that are fun to mark and fun to read. So think of it as almost a capstone for your term in terms of, showing what you're capable of. You're going to use the discussions to get better and better at writing, hopefully, and get practiced. And this is really just a very large discussion post in a lot of ways. Okay. Any questions about the papers? No? Okay. All right.
Teacher, actually, I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
Do we have to use a APA like the most recent, like the 7th edition?
Yeah. What are we on? Are we on 6 or 7? Whatever the most current one is.
I think the most current one is 7.
7. Yeah. Yeah. There, if I recall correctly, and I don't, take close look, some of the things, the main citation and reference list doesn't usually change version to version. The last thing that I remember them changing was taking out the banner at the top with the name of the paper on each page for academic papers, academic assignments. So yeah, it shouldn't impact things, but yeah, please use the most current version for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. They changed the maximum number of authors we need to cite. Okay. Okay. So meaning in your reference list, I take it, Emma, because it would always, if it's multiple, it'd be, Smith et al., right? I think it stops at 20 in the references. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. That's a lot of authors, by the way. So yep, that's fine. Hopefully they mess around with little wee fine things like that hopefully we'll never run into. So, but yeah, there is a link in the course content general that will get you there. As much as I want things in APA format, I'm not going to nitpick down to, like, if it's like it says that you stop at 20. If you did 21 and that's a difference between APA 6 and 7, I'm not all over that. I'm not even aware of that. I want it to be in the proper format. I like the hanging indent. I like the italics for the appropriate part of it. And most importantly, I like the citations to be properly in there. Not remember, if you haven't seen this on the discussions, if you're doing what I call a trailing citation, so if you say blah, 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 bracket Smith 2020, end bracket, so that's your citation, the period goes after the last bracket. It does not go, it's not blah, 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 period, then bracket, and then another period. There's no period after whatever it is you're saying before the citation itself, okay? So lots and lots of students do that, and we try and give that feedback early on in the discussions. But just things like that that I'm looking for to make sure, follow the general format properly, okay? I don't have a sample paper for a reference, just APA format. I've not ever sort of given a sample paper. There's a couple styles that you can use. You can just go by paragraphs, like a sort of a standard essay with the title page and the references and the citations in there. Some people will choose to break it up by headings. So they might do introduction and, have a couple subtopics in there. I'm indifferent. It doesn't matter to me, whatever works for you to organize and to present it as smoothly as possible. If you don't use paragraphs, you'll make me very sad, because a block of text is so hard to read and so hard to understand what's going on. So use paragraphs, space it out. Headers, page numbers. If we're talking about the APA header on each page, no, that's not required anymore. And page numbers are always just a good idea. But I'm not delving into the weeds for those sorts of things. I've never once deducted a mark for not having page numbers or having headers when you weren't supposed to. Okay. don't overthink it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I know I'm kind of a hardline kind of person, but I'm really talking about APA reference as it pertains to citations and references. That's what I care about. Okay. I just wanted to quickly look at the rubric for the term paper and just go over that with you guys quickly. It's available to you. It is available to you from your marking, your grades. My grades is my understanding. You can right click and see the rubric there before you submit it. Let me know if that's not true. I have a different view, obviously, than you guys do. I have the instructor view, and it doesn't necessarily always translate to the way the student view is. In general, we've got 70% for content, 15% for references and citations, and 15% for presentation. So presentation, spelling, grammar, paragraphs, all those kinds of things. Use a consistent font, choose Arial or Times New Roman and stick with it. People often get tripped up because they're putting references in from some other source. They may use auto reference generators or whatever. Make sure it's in the right font, okay? That it matters in terms of appearance. So that's the kind of thing that presentation is about. References and citations, you need 10 references with at least 10 citations. Everything that's referenced must be cited. Don't give me extra people or extra authors in the reference list that you don't actually use. If you don't bother to cite and you only give me a reference list, that'll be a 0 out of 15, guaranteed. It will also impact your content mark, as I've said before already, because you lose credibility in anything you say if you can't provide backup to prove what you're talking about. This is not an internet debate on LinkedIn where people just throw a whole bunch of information around that may or may not be credible. I expect you to back up anything you say in your paper and use it to build to your conclusion. Okay? So that's the rubric for that. Let's talk now about our midterm that's coming up. So as part of the segue to the midterm, so today is the 12th of February. Normally we have Saturday office hours. We will not have one next Saturday, which is the 19th, because it's immediately before your reading week. And it's hard enough for me to get people to attend when there's stuff coming up. There's nothing coming up for your reading week, so we won't have one on the 19th. We also won't have an office hours on the 26th at the end of your reading week. You'll be rolling out of that straight into the midterm. So we've got this week to get through, then we've got reading week, and then we've got a midterm. There's nothing that is due during the midterm week. It's just for the midterm. So use that when use that either to catch up on other courses or do whatever you need to, or use some of that time that you're not doing quizzes, not reading chapters and things like that. Once we get through the midterm, you've got a few days before you have anything else for the course. So I would use that to get writing on my term paper. Okay. So our next office hours will be Saturday, the 5th of March. So there won't be one before or after on the Saturdays before or after reading week. Okay. If you have questions that come up about the midterm, please do reach out to me. For those people that we have a specific time for the midterm, and let me make sure that I quote that properly. So our midterm is Monday, and that is, sorry, making sure I get my dates right. Monday, the 1st of March at 10 a.m. Okay, it's a 2-hour, so it's 10 to 12. That is going to conflict with some of you. Obviously, some of you are going to have classes or other midterms or whatever. We don't have a dedicated time slot because we're a web-only course. So you said the 28th. Sorry, Monday. I lied. Thank you, Emma. It is Monday, the 28th of February, not Monday, March 1st. Monday, the 28th of February is when we're doing the midterm. Sorry about that. The first Monday back from reading week. So that's going to be a conflict for some people. Please reach out to me starting on reading week. I will finalize. I'll be finalizing the midterm at that point. And as I get the email in, what I'll want to do is, first of all, negotiate when you're going to write. I'm always going to want you to write after the rest of the class. 90 to 95% of the class is going to write on Monday, the 28th at 10 a.m. till noon. I will want you to write after that. So give me a suggested day and time. If, for instance, you've got class until noon and you want to write at 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock, let me know that. Do not put yourself in a position where you're going to be stressed about it. It doesn't matter whether you write Monday at noon or 1 o'clock or Tuesday at 5 p.m. I don't care. So don't make it so that you're rushing from class or whatever, or rushing after one midterm to get to the next midterm. Give yourself some time. If we're rescheduling, we're rescheduling. Okay. So the midterm will be 2 hours long. Okay. On the other hand, I don't want it to drag on. Don't push it 5 days later. Make it within a day or two, preferably the same day, but within a day or two. We want to get all these things marked. We have to get all these things marked. So yeah, the sooner the better for sure. But after the rest of the class, please. Yeah, and what I will do when someone reaches out to me and says that they've got, a seminar or whatever, or class, and they prefer this time, I will schedule them. It's an individual process, and I will send you a screenshot proving where I've scheduled them. You'll have to verify that. That'll be on you to make sure that I got it right. Okay. I think that's all that I wanted to say about scheduling. If you have an SAS accommodation and, for instance, get an extra 33% time or whatever, that is already automatically in there. As long as you've gone to SAS and that notification email has come to me, you don't need to follow up on that. Okay. I probably have 20 or 30 students in the class that have some sort of increased time allotment. That's fine. If you have something that you can only write at night, for instance, or only write in the morning and you're in a different time zone, that's an SAS accommodation that you need to let me know about. But if it's just a time extension sort of thing, you do not need to contact me. That will be automatically put in for you. Okay. As far as the midterm itself goes, it'll be 60 multiple choice, multiple answer questions. These will be from the same pools as the questions that you've done in the quizzes. So you will recognize some portion of them, which is good for you guys. And then there'll be 6 short answer questions worth 5 marks each. So it'll be 90 marks, 30 marks will be short answer, 60 marks will be multiple choice. Generally, anyone that does any level of preparation for this will do very well. If you rely on Googling or searching the book for each answer as you go, that's a poor strategy and you may well run out of time. I always have a certain number of people that tell me how it was too long, but that is generally more of a result of not preparing at all. You should be able to answer most or many of the multiple choice without having to refer to the text, right? That's the idea, that you actually know this stuff. If I wanted a class that was really good at Googling, then that's not my goal. My goal is not for you to just be good at Googling. I want you to retain some of the stuff. It's important to note that the final will be proctored, so it will not be an open book. Keeping that in mind, you probably want to prepare for this and build some confidence in your knowledge of this section. Okay. For the short answer questions, 5 marks means I'm looking for 5 points from you. Generally, unless I say list 6 or something like that, I'm looking for 5 valid points. And I'm perfectly happy for you not to write those in full sentences, I'm perfectly happy to deal with point form. It makes it easy for us. If you do go the full paragraph, if that's just the way you like to produce your information, that's fine. Use paragraphs. Do not put a big block of text and expect us to be able to extract the information from it. Okay. Any questions about the midterm? All right. Okay, so moving on to discussions. You guys have had a chance to have one discussion fully marked. The next discussion 2, will hopefully be marked by about Thursday. Please do pay attention to that feedback. We're getting to progressively less feedback each time. So I've asked the markers to provide much less specific feedback. So if, for instance, and I don't suppose this is a problem for anyone that's attending office hours or watching it, if you decide that you're only going to put 250 words down, we're not going to specifically say that we need 500 to 700 words. We will say, take a look at the requirements. Okay. We spend an awful lot of time on the first one to mark it thoroughly and give very specific feedback. The second one, the feedback becomes more general. We don't want to repeat. We would be marking forever if we had to put down, there's a certain percentage of the class that's never going to watch any feedback or never going to read any feedback. And they're always going to provide inadequate submissions. So yeah, that's you get a little less feedback, but it will be available by Thursday. Marks in general go up each and every discussion. So that part's good. Often people will be getting perfect or really close to perfect by the second or third discussion. I'm not cheap on marks. I'm happy to give perfect if you follow all the requirements. So the standard isn't super high, but there are certain things that we want from you as outlined with the discussions. You will have a different person marking this time. As I've said before, we rotate through the markers, so you may have a slightly different style of feedback. I'm always happy to discuss, but if you want to discuss your marks, I need you to have taken a look at your feedback, digested it, and if I need to clarify it, that's fine. But don't come to me without having, sir, I only got 3.5 out of 5. My first question would be why? What does the feedback say? Where were you? And that's on you to go ahead and take a look at. Going back to the midterm, something that I always try to cover that I did not. All the questions for both my midterm and if you write a proctored online final, just like the quizzes, all come at once. I am not the person that will give you one at a time. You'll be able to go forward and back. You'll be able to start at the end and work your way to the first if that's how you want to do it. So it'll all be there, all available to you all at once. It seems crazy to me to do it any other way. I think you're just asking for browser problems and everything else. You should save your answers periodically, please. I mentioned to the previous class, the office hours that I had, your internet connection is your problem. I cannot do anything about that. I cannot accommodate you. You can't prove to me conclusively that your internet was out. That's too easy to fake. So please have a backup plan or be somewhere where you're highly confident of the internet. If Blackboard, on the other hand, goes down, I'm going to hear from every single student and I'm going to know that that's a problem. But do not, you're required to have the infrastructure available to write online, just like you have to have the infrastructure available to attend office hours and watch videos and all that kind of stuff. So is it okay to use Word and transfer over for the short answer? You can do. I'm not sure why you would bother doing that. And I say that because, like you identify, sometimes Blackboard has problems with it. It's definitely going to mess around with the formatting. I would just work it. This isn't a discussion post that's due over a week, you've only got a couple hours to do it anyways. So I would work right in there if I were you and save it. Yeah, I believe that, but you're saying that you've had Blackboard delete your long answer work if you've copied and pasted it in. So save every single answer and go from there. So, okay. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. Does anyone have any further questions about any of the topics or anything that I haven't covered? So I've got 3 students that are wanting to meet with me individually. I think what I will do is I will try my best to put you into separate rooms and see if I can make that work. If not, we'll have to work something out for after my next one, which is, I mean, I've only got 17 minutes until I have to be on to the next class. I may have to reach out by email to schedule something if I can't. When are you releasing the practice exam? I'll release it sometime, probably the end of the week or the beginning of next week over the reading week. So they'll be available for reading week. The practice exam will just be a small multiple choice practice. It'll just be a one shot at it. You should use it as just a verification that your studying has gone well and maybe to get your timing. Yeah, okay, Jay, maybe we'll do that. I'll send you an email afterwards. Use the practice exam just to get your timing down to see how long it's taking you per multiple choice, multiple answer question, and kind of go from there. Yeah, and of course, to get exposure to some of the questions, because you may see questions directly out of the practice exam that are in the final. My experience is less than 20% of the class bothers even to do the practice exam, which blows my mind. But no, I will not be providing an answer key. I will not be releasing the answers. That's on you, based on whether, based on your marks to do the research and figure out where you've gone wrong. All right, guys, if you're in good shape, if I've answered the questions that you're thinking about, then please get on with your afternoon, and yeah, send me questions as you have them, but please do your research before you do that in case I've already covered it, so that I'm not being bombarded with repetitive questions that we've taken the time to discuss already. All right. So thank you. Again, I appreciate the people taking their time to either attend or watch this video. Thank you.